transitioning the curriculum, Module 1. Um, and so the history of curriculum basically started in the 17 and 1800s with apprenticeships. Um, People would learn and master a skill under someone who would teach them, and then curriculum was more vocationally based. In the 1900s, there was a strong agricultural focus, um, but education has been vastly influenced by technological advances. And as times have evolved, so has curriculum and the meaning of education. Changes through my lifetime. I think education and curriculum focus has changed not only because society has changed, but I think parenting as a whole has changed. Um, I feel like even being in the classroom, what uh, my parents kind of get across would never be anything that my parents and the parents of my friends um, would have even remotely like asked about, sent emails about. So I think that has really influenced education as a whole. And then I can't say I had the same experience within education as Erica Goldson, the valedictorian. I think maybe it's because I attended private schools my whole life. Um, so I can't really speak from the perspective of somebody who was raised in public education. I feel like a lot of my foundation was built so much on developing core values of being a good person and finding solutions, working with others. Yes, academics were a huge part of our upbringing as well, but I also feel like we were enabled to kind of set and achieve goals. Um, and I remember tests just kind of being a thing, not something that I personally overly stressed over, or I never felt like I was being tested all the time as far as assessments went. And then I also feel that kind of goes back to my first point where I feel like compared to now, parents really supported um, teachers and schools with decisions, even when I made mistakes or got in trouble. There was never like an explanation for things, or um, if there was a consequence, my parents supported it. um, and then I also felt like I was always encouraged to apply what I was learning. um, so that's kind of what I see, not necessarily in my classroom, but just as a whole, that um, at least being in a private school, I feel like I'm given the opportunity to kind of give my students that these same kind of opportunities, which is beneficial, I think, for everyone. Curriculum definition, who's responsible? I think much of the development of curriculum has been kind of left to a few who kind of roll it out into a system based on research and belief. I think it's strongly influenced by society and historical occurrences, of course. Who should be responsible? I feel it should be a cohesive effort amongst teachers, professionals in child development, and elected areas, while considering society and current events. I believe developing a goal is most important before you can kind of define what curriculum is and how to get there. Um, my belief is, I know I try to implement it in my classroom, but I can't speak for everyone. But I would, I think education should kind of go back to the basics. I think the purpose of education is to develop the child as a whole. Of course, aside from academically challenging them, but providing opportunities for them to critically think. I think that they should be given opportunities to develop emotionally, socially, so that they are active and positive members of society. Um, I refer to it as kind of developing that grit for figuring things out, coming up with solutions, using all the resources you're given. Um, I think nowadays sometimes kids have a sense of entitlement, and And that could just be because I teach at a, in an affluent private school area, but I really try to get my kids to kind of push through those obstacles instead of just kind of quitting the moment it gets hard, or, like, I don't get it. And it's like, well, did you try this? Did you try looking it up? Did you ask a friend? I notice that a lot of the time too. Like, it's just very quick to be like, okay, I don't get it. And, give me the answer. And I try not to uh, do that. I try to kind of give them resources and solutions so that in the event they don't understand it, what can we do? And the TED Talk too, with, kind of enabling students to be creative and empowering them to be engaged and involved in their learning process, I think kind of gives students a huge buy-in, not necessarily into just curriculum, but education, and really feeling like they're developing a sense of um, power to get through whatever life kind of hands them. Um, and I think the focus, I think educators as a whole are not really given the credit they deserve for their profession. Um, I think we're one of the only professions that's constantly ridiculed, and I feel like there's always this belief that everyone can do it. It's so easy. I hear it a lot, like, I'll just homeschool my kids, and that somewhat causes a domino effect where, it's not as easy as everybody thinks it is. And, it's but having that kind of mindset in society um, kind of takes away from what, teachers are really trying to do in the classroom, and develop um, curriculum and education as a whole. So I think that the focus of teachers is just to do our best, the best that we can with the resources that we have, and and really building students to have a sense of character, and kind of give them opportunities to have that educational grit, as I call it, so that they can go out into the world and do the same, and really be, great members of society, and employable, and who knows, maybe, you know, uh, solve the world's problem. So that was kind of my take for Module 1. And thank you for listening.